Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. So we're just going to do another velocity banking video. And you may have noticed that I pretty much make the same video over and over again in this channel. I don't know if you knew that or not, but it's kind of obvious if you watch more than one video. I kind of do it in the same style and over again. And that's because I follow this quote by Bruce Lee, which is, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." Pretty deep, right? And that's why I just keep making the same video over and over again and doing the same velocity banking review. And if you take a look at this channel right here, or the channel statistics or number of videos for this channel, it's 742. One day we'll get to 10,000. I'm not in a rush to get there, but once I know I'm at that 10,000 mark, man, I am going to be feared in the velocity banking space. And I'm just kidding. But I will be at the master level, okay? Now, to kick off this velocity banking review, I'm just gonna play ChatGPT's response to, "Can we summarize velocity banking in the voice of Bruce Lee?" Just for fun.
Certainly, here's velocity banking, Bruce Lee style. Be like water, my friend. Money flows, it does not stagnate. In velocity banking, we use the fluidity of cash flow to overcome the rigid mountain of debt. A line of credit becomes your ally, a tool to strike swiftly at the heart of high interest. You do not pay bills mindlessly, you move with intention, attacking principle with precision. This is not about working harder, it's about harmonizing income, expenses, and strategy. You channel your resources efficiently, erasing debt with the flow of disciplined action. Like water, you adapt to the shape of your life, transforming financial burden into freedom. How's that for a martial arts inspired take?
Man, in this line, he's like so excited. "How's that for a martial arts inspired take?" I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Okay, so here's what I'm going to go over today. We're going to do the same velocity banking scenario with a little bit of emphasis on what the advantages and disadvantages of using credit cards and lines of credit are, right? So, first of all, let's go over what velocity banking is. What is velocity banking? All it is a debt payoff strategy using a line of credit as what you would call your main operating account. So there's two steps to doing this. Number one is you create a budget, right? So I have done this situation probably like 5 times. One day we'll get to 10,000. One day I'll be at that master level. I think this is like my 7th time doing it. I don't know. But let's say you make this money, you have these expenses, and you have 1 penny left over, right? And then when you do your expense breakdown, you list every single debt that you have, every single debt. Now, if you have 10 credit cards, 2 auto loans, student loan, and a mortgage, and all you have these non-debt expenses, life's going to be tough for you when you only have 1 penny left over, right? Only 1 penny left over. In fact, if you ask the average person, "Hey, you only have 1 penny left over, do you need to make more money?" Everybody will say yes, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to be able to pay off debt without necessarily making more money. In fact, we're going to do the opposite of what most people are taught to do, which is have a savings account or have money in your savings account. So remember, Dave Ramsey, the biggest personal finance guru in the United States, is always saying, like, step one, save $1,000. And I don't know about you, but saving $1,000 seems like a waste of time to me, right? So, especially if we're, say, having a penny in leftover savings. And so, what we're going to do with velocity banking is we're going to have the same expenses, but we're going to change how we do banking. And if you got paid because it's the holiday, it's going to be Thanksgiving tomorrow, then what are you going to do with it? Are you going to keep some of your savings or checking account, or are you going to dump all of it into debt with the help of a line of credit? So this comes to step two. We need something called a line of credit. And if you don't believe I practice what I preach, well, take a look here. Again, this is what my checking account statement looks like. When it begins, when I have start off the next month, statement month, it always starts at zero. Money comes in and then money flows out immediately, right? The moment I get paid anytime, whether it's YouTube, whether it's through a rental check, whether it's through whatever, I take that money directly out of my checking account and apply it to debt, right? And then the ending balance is zero. Okay, the ending balance is zero, and that's what we're going to do today too with our savings. We're not going to have anything in our savings account. So once we end the month, it should say zero or near zero. I'm not saying that you have to do that. I'm saying that's what I do. Okay. And their whole point is to increase this thing called cash flow, income minus expenses. And hopefully we have a line of credit available for us to use. So we'll assume that we have a $150,000 home equity line of credit. Now, a lot of people have this idea that we shouldn't use credit cards. Credit cards bad. Oh my goodness, take a look at this. 30%, 27% interest rates, whereas the home equity line of credit is an 8% interest rate. And I'm going to tell you why I use both. You don't have to follow me, but I'm going to tell you why I use both, okay? So let's go over the advantages. And actually, man, this is such a bad ASS quote looking at it. I'm like, who talks like this nowadays, right? Everybody's like, I'm just going to do like 10,000 things at once and suck at what I do. But no one wants to like follow Bruce Lee and just kind of do the same practice over and over and over again, right? So let me just go down here. So let's go and talk about the advantages and disadvantages of credit cards and lines of credit because I use both, right? And first of all, let's understand what a line of credit is. All it is a financial tool where you can borrow money, pay it back, and use it over and over again. So technically, a credit card is a line of credit, but in common vernacular, when we say line of credit, that usually refers to either a personal or home equity line of credit or business, right? But we're talking about personal situation. So usually in the personal situation, you only have two types of lines, regular lines of credit that aren't credit cards, personal or home equity, right? Although technically a credit card is a type of line of credit because you can borrow money, pay back, and use it over again. Now, let's actually do this. Let's switch it up. Let's go over the disadvantages first, right? So advantages and disadvantages. So what's the disadvantage of the credit card? Number one is high interest rates, right? High interest rates. So for example, it's not common to see credit cards where it's like 20 to 30% interest, right? It's 20 to 30% interest. And what's another disadvantage of a credit card? Let's think about this. You can't use it to pay everything, right? So that's the second disadvantage. And why is that? Because if I have a credit card, I can't use it to pay off another credit card, right? Unless I'm doing a balance transfer. Now, let's say I have a credit card like this, right? So let's say I owe $175 from the credit card for credit card one. Can I use credit card one to pay credit card one's bill? No. But what's cool about a line of credit or personal home equity line of credit, let's say we have an $80 bill on a personal line of credit, and what we can do in order to satisfy that payment is just borrow $80 and put it back again. And so it's almost like you get charged a little tiny bit of interest, but you didn't have to actually get that money from another source. So the bad thing about this is you can't use it to pay other debts such as loans, right? Unless you're using plastique and credit cards. You can't use a credit card to pay another credit card unless you're doing a balance transfer. And sometimes the balance transfers get expensive. Sometimes if you get them from credit unions, it's a 0%. But most of the times I always see like 3 to 5% balance transfers. And some people, because of the math, they don't understand that a 3 to 5% balance transfer can cost as much as a 20 to 30% credit card, because that the 20 to 30% credit card is actually annualized, so it's 20 to 30% divided by 12, right? Whereas that 5% is just the 5% of the balance at that time, which might actually be higher. People don't really know that, okay? So two disadvantages of credit cards: high interest rates, and you can't use it to pay everything. Now, what is the disadvantage of a personal home equity line of credit? You accrue interest immediately when you use the money. That is the biggest disadvantage of a personal or home equity line of credit. So if I use the money like $10 today and I put $10 back, but guess what? I think since my average daily balance is $10, I'm going to be charged $10 of that will be the average daily balance in which I'll be charged interest, $10, right? So there's no way around it, right? Whereas the disadvantage of the line of credit is essentially the advantage of the credit card is you don't accrue interest um, immediately if you, or even at all. You don't accrue interest at all if the statement balance is paid in full by due date, right? And there's some nuances to this. So I'm not saying this is like a complete fast rule, but if I pay $20 today with a credit card and then I get the statement bill, I could potentially delay paying that off by a month and still not accrue any interest, okay? Now, here's the other advantage, okay? So here's the other advantage. Points and rewards, right? So points and rewards. So if we're making purchases and we get points and rewards on them, and also while we're in debt payoff mode, we're um, delaying paying the statement balance as much as possible, so we try to kind of delay accruing the interest. That's a big win. Whereas if we directly pay for things out of our line of credit, we're accruing interest immediately, which is what we don't want to do. Okay. Now here's the biggest advantage of the line of credit is ultimate flexibility, right? You can use it to pay anything, loans, credit cards, anything. And so what we want to do is we want to take the best of both worlds, right? And here's the other thing, ultimate flexibility and lower interest rates usually, right? So in a home equity line of credit, I've seen 8 to 10%. By law, I think the max they can charge is by 18% on a home equity line of credit. And then in a personal line of credit, the one that I have has usually been about 15%. Okay. So that's much lower than the 20-30% interest rates, right? And so what we want to do is take advantage of the best of both worlds, which is why we use both credit cards and lines of credit. Okay. And I'm going to show you how I do that. It's really simple. And it doesn't really change anything about the velocity banking structure because we're still going to use our line of credit as our main operating account. And so what we're going to assume is that after we have our budget, we're going to have a line of credit, although there's an unrealistic part about this, which I go over all the time, that we're going to have access to a free and clear line of credit, which nobody will have unless you knew the strategy way before you ever took on debt, which is what I did. I learned about the strategy when I used to make $20,000 a year. Okay. And so now let's just assume that we're able to transfer some debt. So let's take these 10 credit cards, right? So these 10 credit cards are $142,000 of debt. So let's move $142,000 of debt. Okay. And what happens when we move the $142,000 of debt, right? So when the $142,000 of debt has been removed, guess what? This goes to 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, right? And now the cash flow is $4,489.17. So how do we reduce the balance of our debt, which is going to be the line of credit? We're going to put our entire paycheck into that line of credit and then take our expenses out of the line of credit. Okay. Now, this is not that hard to do in practice, but conceptually it could get a little bit tricky because I think people get confused by it. Because it feels like here we're not using the credit cards at all, and that's actually not true, right? So what we do is we have this other section, food, gas, insurance. So anything that is not a debt, right? And our budget for food, gas, insurance, and all the stuff we have to pay for is 2,500. So we can still use these credit cards, right? So we can still use these credit cards, and we might, as long as the expenses equal to is about $2,500 and we pay them off in full, it should be fine, right? So our cash flow will stay the same because we're not carrying any balances in our credit cards, right? So let's say we charge 2,500, a total of 2,500 distributed among maybe 2 or 3 cards, and then we switch them up every single month. So when the statement balance comes, right? The statement balance comes, we have 1 month to delay paying that interest, and what would happen is that the money would essentially come from the line of credit, right? So what we do is pay for our general expenses first with our credit cards, and then once the statement comes out and the statement balance is like, let's say, $2,500 and the due date is like November 17th, then we just pay the statement balance by November 17th and then take it from our line of credit. Now, if we didn't have any debt, I don't think we'd even need to use the line of credit, to be honest, because what we're doing is we're trying to delay paying interest as we're paying off other debt. So I think a lot of people get confused by that too. Now, it's much easier to understand when you do this in practice and just do the spreadsheets over and over again. But just be aware that we're still using the credit cards, even though these payments are technically zero, because we're distributing this $2,500 within the 10 credit cards, right? So as long as we're just using averages, we don't have to be perfect. Then we'll just have, let's say, a basic understanding, right? Basic understanding of how long it should take for us to pay off debt, right? And again, why do we do this? Is because we want to take advantage, the best of both worlds. We want the best of the credit card, which is delaying interest, right? We're essentially going to delay interest by about a month and get the points and rewards, right? Because if we use $2,500 in points and rewards every single month, that's going to give us a extra few bucks in our pocket. And also with the line of credit, we want the ultimate flexibility, right? We want to be able to use pay anything. Money moves in, money moves out, and also we want to have the lower interest rates of either the personal or home equity line of credit. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. And what we're going to do is put the next month's balance plus the next month's balance is G2 plus H2 minus 4489.17, right? So to get the next month's balance, it's the previous month's balance and interest minus the cash flow, okay? And then what we're going to do is take the interest, right? So the interest is based on the average daily balance, right? I'm going to take the average there, multiply it by the interest rate. Whoops, I screwed up, right? 0.08, and then you divide by 12 to get the annual interest. Or not the monthly interest, because it's quoted to you annual. And so what we do is copy and paste. Again, paycheck in, expenses out, paycheck in, expenses out. And the interest might actually be lower than this because we're just delaying it by a month. So maybe we skew the column and or shift it up by like 1 month so that maybe in this month it's actually 904. I don't know. Kind of hard to calculate, to be honest, just because it'll take too much of my brain power to do it. But you could just kind of take this as face value, like, hey, it's kind of there, but it won't be exact. And again, it's very unlikely that your cash flow is going to be the same every single month. So these are all estimated averages. And let's go ahead and do this right here. And I'm going to go ahead and highlight this and do this, and we see that in 36 months we paid it all off, right? Paid it all off. So 36 months, $147,000 or 142K of debt. That was easy. Wow, I'm so impressed, right? And all right. So now, again, we just kind of take our loan calculators that we have here in this loan tab. You can easily create it yourself. Give me one moment to set it up properly. There we go with our loan calculators. There we are, right? And so what we do here is we just type in the current month, and it's going to give us the latest balance and how much interest we paid by that current month, right? So we see here with 36 months, we're at this 36-month mark, and I just type in 36, 36, 36, 36. And we see here that these are the current balances, and what we do is we take these balances and we move them to the line of credit to free some cash flow. And the easiest way to kind of figure this out is using the cash flow index system, in my opinion, because people have sent me their financial spreadsheets with like 20 debts. It's like 15 to 20 is like, how do you figure out which ones to pay off? Oh, cash flow index, right? CFI. And so this is kind of like a ranking system, and the lower the number, that's the one you want to pay off because you get more bang for your buck for paying off these loans. So let's go ahead and pay these off. So this is going to be G2 plus G3, right? And so this is about 16 grand. So let's go ahead and move 16 grand into that line of credit. So I'm going to do that right here. All right, so copy and paste. So let's move that 16 grand, 16315.14. All right, 0.14. Okay. And then, all right, so, and then guess what happens to these two auto loans? 0, right? And so now the cash flow is $5,233. $5,233. And I'm going to do right here. And so what I do is now I just update the cash flow 5233.78. Okay. And Let's do that. And it's like, whoa, who heard about paying off 2 auto loans in 2 months? That's crazy. Or 3 months. 1, 2, 3, right? So simple. Oh my goodness. So simple. All right, so 39 months. Remember that Chinese guy, Martin Yan, on PBS? I heard he faked his accent because he had like that cooking show, Chinese cooking show on PBS. I heard he faked his Chinese accent so that like he could seem more authentic. That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true or not. So sometimes I kind of want to do the Asian accent, even though it's like I'm not authentic because I was born and raised here. But does it make me seem like a Korean Mr. Miyagi? That'd be pretty sweet. Or would it? Okay, so let's just keep going. So 39 months, and so now how much is that? It's 142 plus 23 plus 13. 178K. Man, that was quick. Holy baloney. Holy bazookas. That's what we used to say when we watched Baywatch. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day. All right, so now let's go here. 39 months, right? So now we just update the loan calculator. 39, 39, right? And then this is now technically 0. And so what we do here is we have a 29 grand student loan with a cash flow index of 65. And if you take a look here and just type in cash flow index, right? It says right here, a higher CFI indicates a more efficient loan, while a lower CFI indicates an inefficient loan. Okay, and so right here, the CFI under 50 indicates inefficient. Over 100 indicates an efficient loan. So it's a little bit over 50, but I still feel comfortable paying it off just because we have a lot of income, and this is a relatively low balance. But I would like to see that number go down, but it's okay, no worries. So let me go ahead and do that, and let me go ahead and do this right here, and we're gonna move that loan balance into that lock, the line of credit, and I'm going to do this plus 29716.23, right? All right, so let me go ahead and do that. And student loan is gone, extra $400 of cash flow. And let's see how long it takes to pay off that student loan. And we're going to do that one more time. Control V. Wait a minute. Yeah, okay. So now what we do is just copy and paste, and then now increase our cash flow from 5233.78 to 5687.97, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Copy and paste. Copy and paste. Ooh, that was quick. So 45 months. That was pretty sweet. So 45 months equals 178 plus 40, which is 218K. Well, that was so easy. Okay, so now we have the mortgage left at 45 months. Let's see what what we got here, 45 months. And so now we see that we have $275,000. Now this is what we call efficient loan. So what does that mean? Why should we not move this entire thing into a line of credit? Is because A, the interest rate is lower and we're moving into higher interest rate line of credit. And if we move the entire loan into the line of credit, we only get this itty bitty cash flow back. That's what the 217 means. Okay. So what we want to do is get all the benefits of velocity banking, which is um, paying off debt quickly, paying as much interest as possible, and having complete control of your money. And so instead of directly paying, overpaying the loan, we use the help of a line of credit to do so. And you might say, well, why would you want to do that? Because it makes it so much easier to overpay it than to directly do it, right? So when we directly overpay, guess what happens to our money? It's gone, right? That's kind of the one-way nature of the loan. And if we do overpay, all that happens is that the loan term shortens, which is why so many people are afraid of like 15-year mortgages, right? It's like, well, what if I need, what's it called? For emergencies, well, that's where the line of credit really helps us and really shines, right? Um, and also, I don't know if you knew this or not, but overpaying a loan directly with your savings is kind of like the default way. But when you do it with the line of credit, you actually don't have to do one thing that I think really makes overpaying directly difficult, which is calculate the exact amount you're going to overpay by. So if you just kind of do something what I call the chunking method, or what I learned originally as a chunking method, which is you just move pieces of the loan, chop it up into pieces into the line of credit, you can easily pay it off just as long as you have the cash flow. So let's do this, okay? So in 45 months, we paid, so 300 minus 275, 25K of the loan, right? 25K in the loan, which is not that much in 45 months. Because how much is 45 months? 45 divided by 12, that's 3.75 years. That's 3.75 years to pay off 25K and pay 32K in interest. Okay, so we paid 55. Is it 55? No, 57K in total. 57K. All right, we paid 57K in total. Okay, but only 25 went to the principal. Now let's just do this. So I'm going to show you how the chunking method works. So let's say we move 25,000 into the line of credit and just rinse and repeat again with our cash flow. How long is it going to take us to pay it off? 1, 2, 3, 4 months, right? So let's just rinse and repeat again. So I'll put another 25 grand here, and then rinse and repeat again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Look how easy that was. Oh my goodness. And another 25 grand. Let's do that one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So let me highlight this right here. So in about, I don't know, let's say, let me just count this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So in 13 months, we paid off 75K approximately, right? 13 months, 75K, 75K. And it was easy, okay? Because we're putting all of our money into debt with the help of a line of credit. Now, luckily, we have this velocity banking calculator that shows us how fast we'll actually pay it off. And the reason why this is somewhat inaccurate to do it this way is because you're still making the monthly payment, which will affect the interest and the loan payoff as well. So let me go ahead and open up the velocity banking calculator. All right, here we go. Here's the velocity banking calculator by Renatus. And if you don't know what Renatus is, it's an educational, online educational company. And so the way that I originally velocity banking is through online classes that they have, and I actually, full disclosure, sell them for a commission as well, or resell them as an independent contracted marketer. And so that's how I get people interested in Renatus, right? By just doing these demonstrations over and over again. So if you say like, well, what's your agenda? Of course, I'm going to try to sell something, but at the same time, I really don't care because I don't really need your money. And that's the crazy thing, right? Like, here's the thing: a lot of people, because they're broke, they think other people have their broke mentality, and that's why they're always like suspicious of everybody else. But really, like, you kind of have to have the bank's mentality. You want to lend to everybody, but most people do try to, they don't fit your criteria. Let's just say that. Okay. Now, back to, so enough of my side tangent. Back to here, you just put in the information and then you're good, right? So 3.5 years and 16 grand of interest, how easy was that? Oh my goodness, right? Now, as I said before, the thing that we don't want to do is put, especially if there's an interest rate difference, to put the whole thing in a line of credit, right? Because take a look at this, we pay 45 grand of interest and 3.9 years. So what do you want to pay, 45 grand or 16 grand, right? This chunking method is amazing, right? So a lot of people, like, they don't really understand the whole point of it because they think that magically using an 8% line of credit over a 3% loan makes it better, which is why a lot of people are just mindlessly like, um, recommending first lien home equity line of credit replacement. And I say that as a person who actually has a first lien home equity line of credit. Take a look at this. I just swipe up on my smartphone. It's like, here's $280,000. Oh my goodness. Where'd that come from? And that's because I have a home equity line of credit first lien, right? So I think I know what I'm talking about. You know, I always say this, I may or may not be rich in real life, but I at least play one on YouTube. Okay, so this is me playing a rich person on YouTube, showing you that, hey, I know what I'm talking about because I actually do have a first lien HELOC where everyone else just says like, they're they don't know what they're talking about. They just kind of spit nonsense and they don't practice enough. And the worst thing is that when banks they actually calculate your loans and lines of credit, they don't use a whiteboard. They use an Excel-like program. They use a what they call like a relational database, kind of like Excel, but it's kind of not, right? You ever heard of like SQL or SQL or whatever? I think they mentioned it once, like the fourth Home Alone, where the two robbers were actually like people who are fired from the tech industry and somehow resort to robbing kids. Folks, don't do that. Don't be like the bad guys in Home Alone 4. I probably am the only person who watched that movie, and Christmas is coming up soon. Okay? Okay. All right. So now I think we're good. So we have that here 3.5 years, blah, 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 blah. And then now I just go into this one. And so now 3.5 plus, so equals 45. Whoopsie, what am I even doing? Equals 45 divided by 12 plus 3.5. Did I even do this right? Ugh, hate it when I do screw up like that. So 45 divided by 12 plus 3.5. It's 7.25 years debt free. Oh my, OMG, right? OMG, this is zero, okay? And so now this is 518K debt free. Needs a celebration right there. What a great way to celebrate Thanksgiving, right? Well, imagine if you're like 18 and there's this 25, you're completely debt free. Completely debt free. Because now you're going to have rich people problems. And you're going to have $6,900 of actual savings in your savings account, right? So this is going to happen. It's going to be like D5, C5 C5 times 1, right? That's the first month savings account. And then times 2. And then, if you just see that number, wow, 13 grand, 20 grand, it's like, whoa, like you're rich now and you got rich people problems, right? And what's the ultimate rich people problem? Having too much savings in your savings account because it's like stale water. Remember what Bruce Lee says? Something about be like water, my friend. Flows, money flows. It does not stagnate, right? And that's what happens when you have a savings account. Now you got rich people problems. And you know what the biggest difference between rich people problems and non-rich people problems are, aka poor people problems? Whenever you have poor people problems, I mean, this is a crazy part. You can't go to sleep at night. Whereas you have rich people problems, like oh my goodness, I had too much money in my savings account. You can sleep at night because it's a rich people problem. Oh well, I can go to sleep. It's like when I got rejected for applying for credit. Like I applied for a Chase Business credit card, and then when I got rejected, it was like you got rejected because you have too much credit. Because I have over $527,000 in lines of credit. 527,000. It'll be a million soon. I just don't know when, and frankly, I don't care. Uh, but here's the thing, okay? Once we keep making videos and we get to the 10,000th video, I'm pretty sure someone will sign up for some Renatus classes, right? That's the plan. I don't really have like an actual plan for this. I'm just gonna follow Bruce Lee. That's what I'm gonna do. Just 10,000 videos. We'll see how it goes, right? We're at 742. This upload will be literally be 743. So we'll see how that goes. Okay. All right. Well, have a great day, everybody. This is Korean Atlanta Mentorship, and have a good night.